On this edition of the program, we go over everything that happened at the end of the RNC Trump speech and all the chaos on the Democratic side. Will Biden hold on? We find out right after this.
Cameras turned on them. The Democrats are terrified.
So they would accept it, is what you're saying?
Yes.
So let me ask you this. If he doesn't drop out...
It's not going to come to that. He's going to drop out.
So you think he will?
Yeah,
so
I don't think it's going to come to that, but that's the hammer. They don't want to threaten that. And look, the whole line about dignity,
yeah,
they don't want to have to threaten that, but he is gone.
Politics isn't professional wrestling, they told me. Take it more serious, they told me. Hello and welcome, everybody, to the Politics program for July 19th, 2024. Your old pal, Justin Robert Young, joining you from Milwaukee, Wisconsin. And the RNC has come and gone. And if a convention is a temperature of a party, then the Republicans have Trump fever. They believe they're going to win. They're excited to do it. They like their nominee, and they're ready to bury hatchets to achieve their goal. It's an ooey gooey love fest. And if you want proof, here's a video of former Congressman Madison Cawthorn rolling down the street in his wheelchair with a hot blonde on his lap.
Anyone is just supporting that. Murder is a federal issue. Shame on you.
Since we last spoke on the main feed, the programming on Night 3 was a surgical hammering of Joe Biden on what he claims is his strong suit, foreign policy. Gold Star families from Afghanistan, the parents of a hostage currently being held by Hamas, a 102-year-old World War II veteran who said he would re-enlist if Trump wins. As for Night 4, it was Trump Fest. Personal friends of the once and possible future president trying to combat the narrative that Trump is a self-obsessed authoritarian. Tucker Carlson got the biggest ovation and delivered a speech without a prompter. Franklin Graham, son of Billy, did have prepared remarks as he led the Fiserv Arena in a prayer. So for those keeping track, Trump 24 demanded God stay on prompter while Tucker was free to say what he wanted. But Trump's brand is fun, crowd-pleasing. Hulk Hogan tore his shirt off. Kid Rock sang a modified version of American Badass that edited out the S My D line. It also marks the first time that Limp Bizkit has been referenced on the convention stage of Lincoln, Reagan, and Bush. But it's hard to consider what I've witnessed over the past 4 days without thinking about what's to come in Chicago. I spent the fourth night of this watching the programming from the C-SPAN skybox, thanks to the true legend Howard Mortman and all the amazing C-SPAN staff. It was there that the frequent conversation wasn't about the people on stage, but the drama playing itself out away from it. Mark Halperin, once the grand master of campaign gossip with his Game Change books, but since exiled from polite journalistic society after a Me Too scandal, reported that Biden was set to exit the race without an endorsement for his VP, setting up a contested convention. Other journalists, including those that I think won that vacant title from Halperin with their books, Shattered and Lucky, specifically John Allen of NBC and Amy Parnes of The Hill, followed up with similar but different news. Biden is considering dropping out, but would pass an endorsement to Kamala. Then Robert Costa of CBS reports that none of this is true. Biden is staying in, and they are furious that the forces who want him out are leaking things that aren't true. And undoubtedly, by the time that you listen to this, the story will have changed with little itty-bitty updates since then. It all adds up to a lot of lip-smacking drama that leaves us where we were before with the Democrats, on the edge of chaos, but not yet pushed over. Let me just say this about Democratic gossip that I have heard during the Republican National Convention. If you believe that a contested convention would be something good for the party, I think you are mistaken. There is a mainstream thought in liberal circles that a contested convention would be a Comic-Con for undercovered Democratic rising stars. Did you see Wes Moore's panel? Gretchen Whitmer showed a trailer we can't post online. But there is no historical backing for this. A contested convention would be the Hunger Games, a rhetorically violent arena of slander and lies. And by the way, it might have already begun. Nobody on the Democratic side will come out cleaner for it. Partisans will be mad if their candidate isn't chosen, and they will blame the winner for it. It will drive morale down even further, and that affects frontline volunteers, phone bankers, and general ground persuasion. Oh, and we haven't even mentioned the worst part. Getting to the top of this mountain means inheriting a record that's unpopular with the country and a relationship with a suddenly lame duck president in which they have to acknowledge but distance themselves from. Sure, there are issues that somebody else could prosecute better, abortion and democracy specifically. And I know that there are a lot of extraordinarily demoralized Democrats that are likely listening to this right now that desperately wish that somebody was able to articulate their vision at all. Joe Biden is absent, and when he does show up, it's not particularly impressive. Still, if he were forced off the stage, it does not give a guaranteed electoral advantage. And if you've been paying attention online, you can see that there is a blue anon tinged lunacy that will come from the Biden dead-enders. They will destroy anybody who inherits the mantle they believe their man should have. And they're going to have an argument for it. I've said plenty of things about the Democratic primary this cycle, but for whatever it was, it did happen. Biden can say that 14 million people voted for him, even if I don't believe that that was a real primary in any conventional sense of the words. And for all the conversation about Democratic money all going to somebody other than Biden, let's remember that right now the biggest giver of the cycle is Reid Hoffman. He is somebody that believes Joe Biden should be running. Do you think that he's going to give to a candidate that isn't Joe Biden? Or do you think he'll be so mad that other rich guys pushed him off the platform that he's going to make sure that they don't get what they want? Right now, the Democratic Party is in a staring contest. And Joe Biden wins if this continues to drift closer and closer to the convention. The only question is how hard those that want to depose him will push. And then there's the Republicans, dancing in the aisles to cover songs, listening to a speech that went on way too long. A boring, rambly affair that I don't think is going to matter at all. But we will explain all that after the update. This is your update brought to you by TakePoliticsSeriously.com. To be totally honest, guys, I'm not even going to give you news stories. I normally give you news stories here, but they are changing so fast. So I'll just give you things to search so you can find the latest on them. CrowdStrike. Look up stuff on that. Look up whatever the latest is on Joe Biden. Right now, as I am recording this at 1:57 p.m. on Friday, Joe Biden says he is going to be doing campaign events next week. That does not suggest that he is somebody that will give an Oval Office address not running. J.D. Vance, the vice presidential nominee, now official on the Republican side, has said that there's no reason that Joe Biden should not be able to run for president and still be president, meaning that if he did drop out of one, he should drop out of both. And yet, by the time that this hits your feeds, it's going to be something very, very different. So instead, what I want to do is what we've traditionally done with this break, and that is thank you, guys. I had a late-night conversation with our friend, the money man, Dave Leventhal. And we were talking inside journalism stuff and money and where things are going. And I started musing to him about, what it would look like if I took this program and partnered with some larger platform. And we went through all the stuff and talked about, where I am and what the numbers are and blah, blah, blah. And first he said that no matter what, and this guy's, Dave goes on television regularly. He says that no matter what, whenever he comes on this show, you guys give him the most feedback. You guys are the most dedicated. And then he said, why would you ever want to bring that anywhere else? You have it. You have it all. You can do whatever you want. You don't have a boss. You talk directly to the most passionate, fun audience in this entire field. Why would you want to change a single thing? And maybe it was the fact that it was 2 o'clock in the morning at the Drink Wisconsinably bar. Maybe it was the exhaustion of a long 4 days. But in that moment, dear listeners and viewers, I felt kind of stupid. Because no matter what, the real treasure, the safest job in journalism, the most fun that I have on a weekly basis talking politics is with you guys. Everybody that I talk to in journalism at these events is jealous of the position that I am in because of you, that you have put me in. So thank you. Thank you very much. We have seen a huge uptick in Patreon support, and just know that as this process continues to move forward, I want to be performing at a high level for you. And as my unborn daughter comes rapidly closer to being born, I just want to let you know that it matters. It matters quite a bit to me. TakePoliticsSeriously.com. 2 bonus episodes each and every week. The Patreon episode that came out this week, yesterday, broke down J.D. Vance's speech and why I believe they are positioning him as MAGA's Bill Clinton. So go ahead and get that. TakePoliticsSeriously.com. Thank you very much. All right, initial thoughts of the Trump speech. Too short. Okay. For real though, this is my Trump thoughts, Trump reactions. So Christopher Nolan wrote the third act. It was way too long. It was way too rambly. But if we're gonna put it in the context of what a speech like that is supposed to be, or what matters with it, it wasn't bad for Trump, specifically in this case. If he's boring, and every independent voter in Wisconsin, Michigan, Nevada, Georgia, North Carolina, Virginia, New Mexico, let's expand the map, Virginia, if they all turn that speech off because it was too boring, that's the greatest thing that Trump could want from that. Because those voters don't vote for him when they are scared of him. If they are bored of him, then it's easier to go from bored to I like low taxes, or I like a border closed, I like blah, 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 blah. It's easier to go from bored to issue than from scared to issue. Scared takes a while. Scared has a half-life. Bored is what it is. You do another thing. You play video games, you watch TV, you do something that makes you not bored. If Trump is boring, Trump wins. Now, do I think that was a winning speech? No. But then again, this is the bargain that you make with Trump. He has this uncanny connection with that crowd. That crowd didn't move.
by the way, for the record, that crowd did not move. There was not attrition. Nobody walked out. That was boring. It was insanely boring. And nobody left. So, what would you want? The guy that nobody ever leaves when he gives a boring speech? Or a guy who gives a really good speech that doesn't have the same kind of connection with the crowd? This is the talent that you have to work with, and I think anybody who's involved with the Trump team right now would say, we'll take the good and bad. That being said, convention speeches don't matter. Nobody ever remembers them. This is strictly the domain for political nerds, and the stuff up front with him getting shot was very, very compelling. It was Garrison Keillor at a MAGA rally, and that was good. I think that ultimately is what people are going to remember about this moment. And yeah, the rest was boring. Super boring. Hella boring. Mega boring. I was bored. But again, I don't think that's bad for him.
Those were my initial reactions from the Trump speech as soon as I walked out of the FISERV forum. I was going to write more expansive versions of it, but having rewatched the speech to make this episode, I don't really think I have much of a different opinion. And that was succinctly put enough. Brevity being the soul of wit, something that Donald Trump and his speechwriters didn't particularly think was that important last night. We'll get to that in a second. Let's play some of the clips that I do think matter. And as I said in that recap, Donald Trump loses because he's scary and chaotic. And there was nothing scary or chaotic about him talking about the assassination attempt on his life less than a week ago. Let's go ahead and play that.
As you already know, the assassin's bullet came within a quarter of an inch of taking my life. So many people have asked me, what happened? Tell us what happened, please. And therefore, I will tell you exactly what happened, and you'll never hear it from me a second time because it's actually too painful to tell. It was a warm, beautiful day in the early evening in Butler Township in the great Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. Music was loudly playing, and the campaign was doing really well. I went to the stage, and the crowd was cheering wildly. Everybody was happy. I began speaking very strongly, powerfully, and happily, because I was discussing the great job my administration did on immigration at the southern border. We were very proud of it. Behind me and to the right was a large screen that was displaying a chart of border crossings under my leadership. The numbers were absolutely amazing. In order to see the chart, I started to, like this, turn to my right and was ready to begin a little bit further turn, which I'm very lucky I didn't do, when I heard a loud whizzing sound and felt something hit me really, really hard on my right ear. I said to myself, wow, what was that? It can only be a bullet. And moved my right hand to my ear, brought it down. My hand was covered with blood, just absolutely blood all over the place. I immediately knew it was very serious, that we were under attack, and in one movement proceeded to drop to the ground. Bullets were continuing to fly as very brave Secret Service agents rushed to the stage, and they really did. They rushed to the stage. These are great people at great risk, I will tell you, and pounced on top of me so that I would be protected. There was blood pouring everywhere, and yet, in a certain way, I felt very safe because I had God on my side. I felt that. The amazing thing is that prior to the shot, if I had not moved my head at that very last instant, the assassin's bullet would have perfectly hit its mark, and I would not be here tonight. We would not be together. The most incredible aspect of what took place on that terrible evening in the fading sun was actually seen later. In almost all cases, as you probably know, and when even a single bullet is fired, just a single bullet, and we had many bullets that were being fired, crowds run for the exits or stampede, but not in this case. It's very unusual. This massive crowd of tens of thousands of people stood by and didn't move an inch. In fact, many of them bravely, but automatically stood up looking for where the sniper would be. They knew immediately it was a sniper, and then began pointing at him. You can see that if you look at the group behind me. That was just a small group compared to what was in front. Nobody ran, and by not stampeding, many lives were saved. But that isn't the reason that they didn't move. The reason is that they knew I was in very serious trouble. They saw it. They saw me go down. They saw the blood and thought, actually most did, that I was dead. They knew it was a shot to the head. They saw the blood. And there's an interesting statistic. The ears are the bloodiest part. If something happens with the ears, they bleed more than any other part of the body. For whatever reason, the doctors told me that. I said, why is there so much blood? He said, it's the ears. They bleed more. So we learned something, but they just, this beautiful crowd, they didn't want to leave me. They knew I was in trouble. They didn't want to leave me. And you can see that love written all over their faces.
We have talked a lot about the rise of Trump, calm Trump. We saw it as he accepted his victory in 2016. We saw it in his last brush with death, COVID, in 2020. And we saw it tonight. There's a lot of conversation that I saw online about low energy, boring. That's fine for him. Nobody gets mad at the boring guy. If you have that kind of connection with your audience and you're boring, you're fine. And for somebody that is painted as a demagogue, it's hard to think that a demagogue is the guy who says, "What was that?" when talking about a bullet whizzing by his ear, and saying that we all learned something about how much ears bleed. One more thing on the assassination attempt. This was a big moment where he talked about the chart, the famed chart that saved his life as he turned to look for it, which was at the exact moment that the bullet whizzed by his ear.
Less than 4 years ago, I handed this administration the strongest border in American history. But you can see on the chart that saved my life, that was the chart that saved my life. I said, look it, I'm so proud of it. I think it's one of the greatest. It was done by the Border Patrol, one of the greatest charts I've ever seen. It showed everything just like that. You know the chart. Oh, there it is. That's pretty good. Wow. Last time I put up that chart, I never really got to look at it. But without that chart, I would not be here today. Never got to look at it. I said, you got to see this chart. I was so proud of it. And by the time I got to there, I never got to see it that day.
Another moment that I can only assume is going to be cut out and used in various different forms, television and online ads, was this one-liner about hostages abroad.
I tell you this, we want our hostages back, and they better be back before I assume office, or you will be paying a very big price.
What Donald Trump wants to be is a Reagan figure. Reagan was the guy who could get the hostages back from Iran after Carter. That is a very deliberate parallel that they are painting. He is saying, get them home now. You're not going to like it if I get in and they are not here. By the way, after Trump's speech, Russia convicting the Wall Street Journal reporter to 16 years in prison. Trump said that he would get that man home before he was inaugurated if he wins in November. And those were the highlights. I mean, I think that they were really strong highlights, and I do think that that's the stuff that's going to get replayed over and over and over again. The rest was rambling. It was really, really rambling. And it's rambling in a way that it's hard for me to explain to somebody who didn't watch the speech, because rambling is hard to capture in a recap. And convention speeches, honestly, are mostly for political sickos like you and me. But in case, this is a big news story, in case somebody is listening to this for the first time, there's a normie that's enjoying this show. Here's my best representation of the 45 minutes of mistake. Here's my best representation of the 45 minutes of off-prompter meandering that Trump did as part of the longest convention speech of all time.
He starts with tales of yesteryears, a ramble through the wind, a story without end, my friend, just where it begins. He talks of fields
and it's a great building, and waitress comes over. How's everything going? Really nice person. How's everything going? Oh, Sarah's so tough. The government's after me all the time on tips. I said, well, they give you cash. Would they be able to find him? She said, actually, and I didn't know this, she said, very little cash is given. It's all put right on the check. And terrorists are coming in at numbers that we've never seen before. Bad things are going to happen. Meanwhile, our crime rate is going up, while crime statistics all over the world are going down, because they're taking their criminals and they're putting them into our country. But this man said, we're going to find a cure to cancer. Nothing happened. Probably the only vacation he's had in about, maybe ever, because he works, but about 10 years with his wife, very far away. I won't tell you where, but very, very far away. Beautiful place. And my people called, and he said, I won't be able to do it. This is many, many years. I promised my wife I can't do it. And they came in, they said, Dana won't be able to do it. Because he was my first, second courage.
In summation, if you thought Donald Trump going long on a speech is going to hurt his campaign, I just quite simply don't agree with you. I don't think that anyone's even going to remember the fact that it was long. I think most of the people are going to remember the story about his assassination attempt. And I also think that his tone was altered enough that he's going to get credit for being more subdued. Anybody who thought he was going to turn into George Carlin all of a sudden, I think, is a little bit off base. He was Trump. He's always going to be Trump. The 78-year-old man isn't going to change all that much. But the speech was a capstone for an absolute cementing of a Republican Party that is happy, healthy, and has a tent big enough that Mike Pompeo and Tucker Carlson shared the same stage within a half an hour. Amber Rose and Nikki Haley shared the same stage. Billy Graham's son and Kid Rock shared the same stage. That's a very, very, very big tent. And as they file out into airports where the planes won't fly because the computers don't work, it's going to stand in contrast to whatever happens in Chicago. And it tells you a lot that we don't know who's going to get nominated or how that's going to happen. Politics is written and hosted by me, Justin Robert Young, for Dog and Pony Show Audio in Austin, Texas. You can email the show, theyoungamerican@gmail.com. Find, follow, and share video clips. TikTok, Justin R. Young. Instagram, Justin R. Young. On YouTube, where all of this now has video, including video from the convention and videos that I mentioned. They are all here. Politics on YouTube. On Twitter, you can follow me, Justin R. Young, and you can share the audio version of this podcast, px3podcast.com, letter P, letter X, number 3, podcast.com. If you want to support the show, you can do so, paypal.me/payjury for a one-time donation. If you got a $5 sitting around in that PayPal of yours. Venmo is Justin-Young-20. Cash App is PX3Cash. And you can send me anything that you'd like in the mail. P.O. Box 153184, Austin, Texas 78715. Again, Post Office Box 153184, Austin, Texas 78715. Now, the only way you can get our bonus content is the Titanic $10 tier at Take Politics. Mistake. Of course, the only way that you can get our bonus content is at TakePoliticsSeriously.com. Our $3 tier gets you 2 bonus podcasts per week covering all the news that we miss on our free podcasting schedule. And, folks, we're going to have another humdinger of a Sunday episode that is Patreon exclusive. That is where we watch all the Sunday shows. And there's going to be a lot of internal conversation about the state of the Democratic Party. But our Titanic $10 tier gets your name right at the end of the podcast, like these fine folks in the Titanic $10 tier. Gloria Young, my mom. Gray Zone, Peapaw, Jay, Sugar Brady, Marcus with a Q, DP4 Bongo, Sam, John, Niemeister, Edwin, Invoke Gloria Young for King of the New World Order, Edison, Jeremy, a dog named Checker, Sarah Jeannie, Matthew, Dr. G, Neil, his nerdiness, Charles, Audrey Stoll Adler, Spot, Darren, Idris Arslanian, Bluefront, and the Lenina, Berkeley, Steven, Chad, Zombie Doc, Matt P, Chill, Adam, Chief Andy, Robert, Casey, Paul, Dustin, Brad, D Laser, Nick, Just Another Pilot, Middle-Aged Mike, Utah Jimmy Montana, the Jen, Alo, D, Really, Craig, Andrew, Nicholas, Peter Marks, Will Porta, SingleTreeTravel.com, Fat Tony's PJs from New York, Devon the CFP, and Whiskey Wolf. If you want your name read, only one place to do it, $10 tier at TakePoliticsSeriously.com. You also get the bonus content with that. If for whatever reason I have missed anybody on the Titanic $10 tier for this episode, if you were listening and you're like, where's my name? Obviously, it's been chaotic. I might have missed something. Email me immediately. I will change the file of this episode to make sure that we get everybody's name. I know for big episodes like this, that's what we want to do. So go ahead. Send me an email, theyoungamerican@gmail.com. And that brings us to the end of our RNC coverage. Thank you one more time. Just know that my gratitude will never be repaid for what you guys have given me. So much so that I'm going to bless you guys with this. This is when I met Baby Dog, the dump truck of a pooch of the likely future senator from West Virginia, Jim Justice. Here's when I met Baby Dog on the floor.
Here we go. Here we go. Baby dog footage. This is gold. Baby dog, thank you.
And with that, we wrap it up. A reminder that some shows talk about politics, others talk about politics, and still more discuss politics. But this is the only show that dares discuss. Oh! 3